Most women say that they experience shame after they emotionally eat, binge eat, or overeat. But what if I told you that the shame actually comes first? That shame is actually one of the reasons and one of the drivers behind why you're reaching for comfort food in the first place. I'm Holly Bertone, former FBI Chief of Staff for Counterintelligence, now known as the Emotional Eating Profiler and Coach. My job at the FBI was to find the patterns that were hiding in plain sight. And I've spent years reverse engineering these same pattern recognition skills to find out exactly why you emotionally eat and why everything you've tried to stop it has failed. Today, you're going to track shame back to its three core wounds and how this drives your emotional eating. I'm trained under Chase Hughes, and yes, that one. He recently did a deep dive with us on the topic of shame. Shame is huge if you're an emotional eater. So, credit where credit is due for the inspiration for this episode. As he was talking, my mind did that whole CSI Red Yarn thing, connecting what he was sharing with the patterns that I see with my clients with emotional eating and with their inability to lose weight. So I want to share with you some of these insights. So first, let's level set shame, because even just hearing that word, you're probably already in your feels a little bit. And the last thing that I want is for you to feel any kind of shame around feeling shame. Because we think of shame as something bad. We think of shame as a character flaw. But shame is one of the most human things about us. Every single one of us experiences shame. It is wired into us as a survival mechanism. So shame is something that you should not be shameful for. It's just a part of being human. Now, shame actually protects us from three things. And these three things explain many of the self-destructive patterns that we all have. Because when you were 7 or 8 years old, you're figuring out the rules of your world. You're figuring out what gets me love, what gets me rejected, what part of my personality has to stay hidden. And your nervous system built an entire operating system around all of this and around all of these rules. It's like one big bubble to keep you safe and protected. But now, as an adult, these three wounds, they get poked all day long. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts every single day. And I don't have to tell you what happens at night because of this. Because at the end of the day, you reach for the food. It's the emotional eating. It's the binge eating. So you're probably like, okay, Holly, just give me the three core wounds: exclusion, rejection, and exposure. These three core wounds explain the majority of your self-destructive behaviors. We're going to get into that. Every day, your nervous system runs a threat assessment on these three core wounds. Your decisions, your behaviors, your actions are based on how to stay in that bubble of feeling safe and protected. What does this have to do with emotional eating? Let me run a few scenarios by you. Exclusion. The shame of being excluded is worse than feeling uncomfortable. Let's say you're out to dinner and the server walks up to the table and they've got the dessert tray. You're already telling yourself, I'm going to be good. I'm not going to eat dessert. I need to be good. I'm not going to have the dessert. So at first, you're like, no, thank you. But then you watch everyone else at the table order dessert and you don't want to be left out. You don't want to be judged. You don't want to be the only weirdo at the table who isn't eating dessert, because you're convinced they're going to judge you. You're convinced they're going to think you're a weirdo if you're not eating dessert. So right as the server's walking away, you're like, you know what? Hey, never mind. I'm going to take the chocolate molten lava cake. Or another example, it's lunchtime and it's Friday and you're at work and your coworkers decided to order pizza. So you give yourself the same pep talk, but then the pizza arrives. And you didn't pack your lunch and you're not going to go out by yourself when they're all eating pizza. So now you're just staring at them. You're watching them laughing and talking and joking and eating pizza. And you're like the odd one out. So what do? You take a slice and then you take another and maybe even a third. The shame of being excluded is worse than feeling uncomfortable. By the way, if you're getting value out of this video, hit that thumbs up and subscribe button. The second core wound is rejection. The shame of being rejected is worse than feeling exhausted. As an overachiever, you're not just striving for that straight A, that A plus every single day for yourself. You also have to make sure every single person in your world also gets that A plus. Your boss, your spouse, your kids. Because if you don't get the A plus and they all don't get the A plus, that feels like rejection. That feels like you're not good enough. So what do? You run yourself ragged from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed. And because of this, you have zero time to eat. So you end up eating this sad little salad, grabbing this tiny little box and this sad little salad for lunch, or you end up hitting the drive-thru. Properly fueling yourself, it's not even a thought in your mind. It's not even a thought, let alone a priority for you. Here's another example. Let's say you get into an argument with your spouse and he thinks everything is fine, but you're like, you're running it through your head and you're like, I felt dismissed, I felt unheard, and it was not resolved. So you go to bed at night and you're ruminating. He's sound asleep, he's snoring. You're ruminating. You were supposed to meal prep this morning, but because of that rumination, you were up half the night. You're rehearsing the conversation over and over in your head, and you were exhausted. And you're not even hungry in the morning because your stomach's still in knots from all of the stress. But then afternoon rolls around, you haven't eaten all day, and the next thing you know, you're staring at the wrapper of a king-size Reese's cup that you just destroyed. The shame of feeling rejected is worse than feeling exhausted. The third core wound is exposure. The shame of being exposed is worse than feeling unhappy. How many times have you told your family and friends that you're going to go on a diet, that you need to lose weight? And then how many times did you start? And then how many times did you quit? So rather than trying again and risking exposure, risking feeling like a fraud, you justify your weight. You're like, oh, I just inherited these fat genes, or, oh, it's just perimenopause. Or another example, you book a beach vacation with your girlfriends. It is 6 months out and you're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to eat better. And I do not want to look incredibly tragic in my tankini. 6 months turns into 5, turns into 4, turns into 3, turns into 2, and the scale has not budged. So instead of doubling down, you do the exact opposite. You just say, screw it. You eat everything in sight, and then you come up with a lame excuse to cancel rather than going. The shame of being exposed is worse than feeling unhappy. When you look at shame from this perspective, it is a completely different conversation than I have to go on a diet. Because there's bigger forces at play than just starving yourself with that sad little salad in that tiny little box. It is time to start viewing shame from a different perspective, from a perspective that is more human than I eat everything in sight and I feel shame. Because these 3 core wounds, they haunt every single one of us every single day. So the question now is, which wound is being poked right now? And how can I regulate myself so that emotional eating is not what happens next? And if you're ready to stop feeding the wounds and start actually healing them, click the link below this video. It's going to take you to another page where you can join the Break Emotional Eating Accelerator, and for a one-time investment that is less than a typical Target run. Inside the Break Emotional Eating Accelerator, you're going to learn how to shut off these emotional eating patterns that are driving your cravings so that food stops controlling your life, healthier choices are automatic, and weight loss finally becomes sustainable. And if you're the type of woman who wants to make that investment to just go all in, I'll leave a link for you to apply for private coaching. I only work with 3 or 4 clients at a time, so spots are limited based on availability. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Holly Bertone, and this is Weight Loss Forensics.